If you want to think more clearly, make better decisions, and feel more confident in your choices, this video is for you. Improving your critical thinking skills isn't about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about training your mind to see things more clearly, question what you hear, and find better solutions to everyday problems. Imagine waking up each day with a sharper mind, ready to tackle challenges without feeling overwhelmed or confused. What if you could stop doubting yourself and start trusting your judgment more? That kind of mental strength comes from learning simple habits anyone can practice. In this video, I'm going to share practical steps that you can apply right away to boost your critical thinking. These are not complicated theories or fancy tricks, just real, useful advice you can use in your daily life. You'll learn how to slow down your reactions, choose your thoughts intentionally, test ideas with real proof, and much more. By the end, you'll see how small changes in the way you think can lead to big improvements in your life. This is about growing your mind, gaining clarity, and building discipline that lasts. So stay with me, and let's start sharpening your thinking today. Chapter 1. Strengthen your mind by asking better daily questions. Every day, from the moment we wake up to the moment we lay our head down at night, our mind is busy interpreting, evaluating, and deciding. Most of the time, we don't notice it. We move through the hours based on habit, routine, and automatic responses. But behind every thought, there is a question. Behind every action, there is a belief we rarely stop to examine. And the quality of our questions, those silent recurring whispers we direct inward, shapes the strength of our thinking, the direction of our day, and ultimately, the outcome of our life. If we want to improve our critical thinking, we must begin by asking better daily questions. A weak mind asks vague, reactive questions like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "What's wrong with everything today?" These kinds of questions are traps. They lead to narrow thinking, reinforce negative beliefs, and keep us stuck in loops of blame and confusion. On the other hand, a strong mind asks clear, productive questions like, "What can I learn from this?" or "What's the next right step here?" These questions open doors. They push us forward. They force us to become more aware, more honest, more responsible for what we think and how we choose to live. Changing the way we ask questions doesn't require intelligence. It requires courage. The courage to face ourselves, the discipline to slow down, the patience to seek truth even when it's uncomfortable, and the humility to accept that growth begins when we stop assuming we already have the answers. Asking better questions isn't about sounding wise or pretending to be deep. It's about becoming fully present with what's really going on inside us and around us. When your morning starts with the question, "What's the most important thing I need to do today?" rather than "How fast can I get through this day?" you begin with clarity instead of pressure. When you face a disagreement and ask, "What is this person really trying to say?" instead of "Why are they so difficult?" you train empathy instead of judgment. That shift changes everything. Good questions reveal your character. They show what you value, what you avoid, and how you think. If you constantly ask questions that focus on blame, you train your mind to avoid responsibility. If your questions focus on what you can improve, you train your mind to build resilience. The first leads to weakness. The second builds strength. Strong thinkers don't need perfect answers. They know that perfection is an illusion. What they need is better direction, and that comes from intentional questioning. Every challenge, every setback, every doubt becomes a doorway when you approach it with the right question. When you ask, "What is this teaching me right now?" you break the pattern of complaining. you stop running from difficulty and begin learning from it. That one question can shift your entire mindset from victimhood to leadership. The discipline of daily questioning is not complicated, but it is hard. It requires you to interrupt your automatic thinking. It demands that you listen more carefully to your own inner dialogue. It pulls you out of comfort and into responsibility. And it doesn't always feel good at first. But over time, as you build the habit, you'll notice something powerful. Clarity will replace confusion. Focus will replace distraction. Action will replace overthinking. This isn't about asking hundreds of questions and drowning in analysis. It's about asking fewer, better ones, the kind that sharpen your attention and force you to think on purpose. Imagine waking up and asking, what kind of person do I want to be today? Or what mindset do I need to bring to this challenge? These questions direct your focus like a compass. They guide your decisions and behaviors before the chaos of the day takes over. And over time, this becomes your edge. While others react, you respond. While others complain, you adjust. While others avoid hard thinking, you become stronger because of it. We live in a world that bombards us with information, but teaches us very little about how to think. Everyone has opinions. Everyone has something to say. But few people take the time to train their thinking through better questioning. Most repeat what they hear. They argue, not to learn, but to prove. They speak, not to build, but to control. This is the weakness of passive thinking. It produces noise but no direction. But when you live with the habit of strong internal questioning, you develop a mind that cannot be easily misled. You stop falling for distractions. You no longer depend on the opinions of others to form your reality. You become grounded, thoughtful, and aware. This is the foundation of a resilient life. You don't need to wait for a crisis to start asking better questions. You can begin right now. Before making a decision, ask, is this aligned with my values or just my emotions? Before forming a judgment, ask, do I have enough information to be certain, or am I reacting out of habit? Before quitting something hard, ask, what might I regret more, pushing through or walking away? These questions are not magic, but they are mirrors. They reveal what's driving you, and they help you see clearly when emotion clouds your judgment. It's also important to ask questions that challenge your comfort. Growth is uncomfortable. Most people avoid it because it forces them to change. But if you want a stronger mind, you must be willing to ask, where am I lying to myself? Or what truth am I avoiding because it's painful? These are difficult questions, but they are the ones that matter most. They bring pain, yes, but also freedom. Because when you face the truth, you stop being controlled by fear. Better questions also improve your relationships. When someone disagrees with you, ask yourself, what experience might have shaped their view, or what are they trying to protect by holding this belief? These questions soften your ego and open the door to understanding. You stop reacting and start connecting. This doesn't mean you always agree, but it means you are thinking clearly, not emotionally. And that's the difference between conflict and growth. Asking better questions also improves how you handle failure. Instead of why am I so bad at this, you ask, what skill do I need to build to get better? Instead of why did I mess up again, you ask, what pattern is repeating and how can I change it? This shift turns failure into fuel. You stop seeing mistakes as proof of your limits and start seeing them as signals for what to improve. The most important thing to understand is that your questions shape your reality. Your brain is always listening. If you ask shallow questions, it gives you shallow answers. If you ask smart, focused questions, it begins to search for solutions, not problems. This is how change happens from the inside out. Start small. Begin your mornings with one strong question: what kind of person do I want to be today? Write it down. Reflect on it, then act on it. During the day, when something frustrates you, ask, what is this moment teaching me? Before you go to sleep, ask, what did I learn about myself today? These are not just routines, they are disciplines of the mind. They rewire your thinking, little by little, until your entire life becomes sharper, calmer, and more intentional. Most people never question their thinking. They confuse speed with intelligence, loudness with truth, and certainty with wisdom. But the strong thinker understands that asking the right question is more important than having the right answer. Because the right question opens the mind. It forces you to examine your assumptions, to pause your emotions, and to rise above impulsive reactions. It turns noise into clarity. This is what separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. The ones who grow are not always the smartest, but they are the most curious. They are willing to be wrong. They are hungry for better thinking, and they live with a quiet strength that comes from knowing they can rely on their own mind, not because it's perfect, but because it's disciplined. So, if you truly want to strengthen your mind, don't start with new information. Start with new questions, and ask them daily, not once. Make it a habit. Build it into your routine. Write your questions in a journal. Say them out loud when you feel confused. Use them when you're angry, when you're tired, when you're unsure. That's when they matter most. Because anyone can think clearly when life is easy. The real test of strength is how you think when life is not. And remember, no one else can do this work for you. You must build your own thinking. You must train it like a muscle. The world will tempt you to copy, to follow, to rush, but your job is different. Your job is to pause, to question, to choose. That's how you build a strong mind. Not by always being right, but by being willing to think deeply, honestly, and consistently. You will notice over time that better questions change not only how you think, but how you feel. You'll stop overreacting to things that once bothered you. You'll stop chasing answers that don't matter. And you'll begin to live with more purpose, because you're no longer lost in confusion. You're thinking with clarity. The power to change your life is already within you. It starts with one simple act repeated every day, asking better questions, not to impress others, not to sound smart, but to think clearly, to see what matters, to act with strength. That is how you grow. That is how you win. And that is how you become someone who lives on purpose, not by accident. The rest of the world may chase noise, but you will choose thought. And from that, everything changes. Chapter 2. Challenge your beliefs by seeking the opposite view. Every person walks through life carrying a set of beliefs that guide their choices, shape their opinions, and filter every experience they have. Most of these beliefs were formed early, without our full awareness. They came from parents, culture, teachers, media, past pain, and personal wins. We absorb them naturally, then carry them unconsciously. They influence how we see people, how we handle conflict, how we define success, and how we respond to failure. But very few of us stop to ask if those beliefs are actually true, or if they are just familiar. If you want to grow mentally and emotionally, you must challenge your beliefs by actively seeking the opposite view. This isn't about becoming a contrarian. It's about becoming grounded in reality rather than comfort. Comfort holds tightly to what feels right. Growth looks deeper to find what is right. When you train yourself to look at views that oppose your own, you stretch the limits of your understanding. You test what you believe, not to prove others wrong, but to make sure you're not fooling yourself. There's strength in doing that. It means you care more about truth than ego. A weak mind defends itself with certainty. It shuts out anything that contradicts its beliefs. It sees disagreement as an attack. But a strong mind does something different. It listens, not to obey, not to agree blindly, but to learn. A strong thinker can sit with an uncomfortable idea, not because they accept it, but because they want to understand it fully before they judge it. That's where real thinking begins. When you seek the opposite view, you disrupt your bias. Bias is what causes people to interpret the world in ways that confirm what they already believe. It makes you blind to evidence that contradicts your opinions. It pushes you to gather information in ways that protect your identity instead of revealing the truth. You stop seeing things as they are, and instead, you see them as you want them to be. This is dangerous, not just intellectually, but in every area of life. It keeps people stuck. It keeps teams divided. It keeps leaders from making good decisions. But when you train yourself to examine the other side honestly, your view becomes clearer. You stop operating from fear and start operating from awareness. It doesn't take brilliance to do this. It takes discipline. It's easier to only follow people who agree with you. It's easier to shut down arguments that make you uncomfortable. But ease doesn't build mental sharpness. Effort does. When you hear a view that goes against yours, stop and ask what part of this could be true. You don't have to agree with it. Just explore it. Then ask, why do I believe what I believe? Where did it come from? Have I tested it recently? These questions open a window in the mind. They bring light into dark corners you haven't visited in a while. Most people confuse agreement with validation. They want the world to reflect back their beliefs so they can feel safe. But seeking only agreement makes you fragile. It makes you defensive when challenged. It creates an illusion of certainty that falls apart under pressure. On the other hand, when you expose your beliefs to opposition and they still stand, you become more grounded, not less. You're no longer held up by emotion, you're held up by clarity. This mindset matters in every part of life. In your work, if you only look for evidence that your strategy is right, you miss critical flaws. But if you ask, what would someone who disagrees with me say about this plan? You find weaknesses before they become failures. In relationships, if you assume your way is the only right way, you create distance. But if you ask, how might they be seeing this situation differently? You create space for connection and resolution. In personal development, if you protect every belief from being questioned, you stay stuck in the same mental cycle, never learning, never improving. The moment you feel defensive is often the moment you need to lean in. Discomfort is not a sign of danger, it's a sign of growth. When someone presents an opposite view, resist the urge to react. Don't rush to prove them wrong. Just sit with it. Think. Ask yourself what they might be seeing that you're not. Even if they're completely off base, the process of investigation makes your thinking stronger. It forces you to be honest about your own blind spots. It's also important to understand that seeking the opposite view isn't about abandoning your principles. It's about refining them. When you examine opposing ideas, you don't become weaker in your beliefs. You become wiser. You're no longer attached to being right. You're committed to being effective. And that shift makes your thinking more dynamic, more responsive, and more powerful in real-life situations. The best thinkers in history didn't surround themselves with agreement. They sought out challenge. They tested their ideas in the fire of contradiction. They invited disagreement, not because they wanted conflict, but because they wanted to see the full shape of the truth. They knew that thinking in a vacuum creates illusion, but thinking with friction builds strength. In daily life, you can practice this by intentionally reading or listening to sources that don't align with your beliefs. If you have a strong opinion on a topic, find someone who disagrees and listen with the goal of understanding, not debating. This doesn't mean giving up your values. It means expanding your mental reach. Ask questions like, what evidence do they rely on? What assumptions am I making? Is there any part of this I haven't considered? These questions force your mind to operate on a higher level. One of the greatest habits you can build is the ability to separate your identity from your beliefs. You are not your opinions. You are the one who forms them, questions them, changes them, and refines them. When you tie your identity too tightly to your current beliefs, you become defensive and rigid. But when you hold your beliefs lightly, ready to strengthen them through challenge or revise them when needed, you grow with integrity. You move through the world with confidence, not because you're always right, but because you're always learning. True mental strength comes not from being certain, but from being open. Not gullible, not weak, open to nuance, open to refinement, open to the possibility that what you believe today may need to evolve tomorrow. That's not instability, that's maturity. Seeking the opposite view also helps you develop humility. It reminds you that you don't see the full picture. It brings you back to the mindset of a student, curious, questioning, alert. This mindset is rare. It's uncomfortable, but it's the gateway to wisdom. When you live with that posture, you stop fearing contradiction. You begin to welcome it, because you know it's shaping you into someone who doesn't just think more, but thinks better. And in the end, that's what matters. Not just having beliefs, but having beliefs that have been tested, stretched, challenged, and refined. That's how you grow stronger. That's how you make better decisions. And that's how you live a life built on awareness, not assumption. Chapter 3. Train your focus by removing daily mental noise. Focus is one of the rarest and most valuable skills in today's world. Everywhere you look, something is trying to take your attention. Messages flash across your screen. Notifications buzz in your pocket. Thoughts race through your mind. And even when you're physically still, your brain can feel like it's running in 100 directions. Most people live in a state of constant distraction, but focus isn't a gift you're either born with or without. It's a discipline you build, and it starts by clearing out the noise that fills your mind every day. Mental noise is the background clutter that drowns out your ability to think deeply. It's the random thoughts, worries, urges, and half-finished ideas that never settle. It's the mental tabs left open from yesterday's problems, tomorrow's plans, and everything in between. You can't think clearly when your attention is pulled in 10 directions. You can't make wise choices when you're overwhelmed by too much input. The first step to training your focus is removing what doesn't need to be there. Start by looking at how your day begins. Many people open their eyes and immediately reach for their phone. They scroll through updates, answer messages, check news, and consume opinions before their own mind has even had a chance to breathe. When you begin your day reacting to outside input, you lose control of your inner space. Instead of starting with intention, you start with interruption. And that choice ripples through the rest of your day. A clear mind requires boundaries. What you allow in is just as important as what you keep out. One of the strongest habits you can build is taking a moment of silence before your day begins. Just sit, breathe, Let your thoughts settle without grabbing onto any of them. You don't need to solve anything right away. You don't need to jump into productivity. You just need to return to a state of presence. In that stillness you begin to notice how loud the world usually is. And once you become aware of the noise, you can begin to do something about it. Mental noise also comes from trying to do too much at once. The brain doesn't multitask the way people think it does. It switches quickly between tasks, but each switch drains energy. Every time you go from one task to another, your brain has to reorient itself. That constant switching leaves your attention scattered. To train focus, you must learn to do one thing at a time. It sounds simple, but it takes practice. Choose a single task, remove everything unrelated to it. Set a timer, and devote your full attention to just that one thing. At first you may find it hard. Your mind will want to wander. That's normal. Bring it back. Gently, firmly, consistently. Over time this becomes easier. What you're doing is retraining your brain to stay present. Another source of mental noise is unresolved decisions. When you avoid making choices, they pile up in the back of your mind. You may not even notice them, but they drain energy. Each delay adds a layer of uncertainty. To quiet this noise, review the small decisions you've been putting off. Make a list, then take action. It could be scheduling an appointment, replying to a message, organizing a space, or committing to a plan. Every choice you close frees up space in your mind. You don't need to solve everything right now, but stop letting the avoidable things follow you all day. What you consume also plays a huge role in the noise you carry. Information is not neutral. It takes up space. When you scroll endlessly, read opinions all day, or flood your mind with news you can't control, your inner world becomes reactive and noisy. Be selective. Choose your input carefully. You don't need to know everything. You need to understand what matters. That requires clarity, not constant stimulation. Focused minds are fed by focused content. Even internal dialogue can become a source of noise. Most people have a voice in their head that never stops. It comments, criticizes, worries, plans, replays conversations, and invents scenarios. If you're not careful, this voice can lead you in circles. To quiet this mental chatter, start observing it. Step back from your thoughts and just watch them. Don't argue, don't resist. Just notice. This practice alone begins to reduce the volume. Over time, you'll realize you're not your thoughts. You're the one who sees them. That small shift brings enormous peace. Training your focus also requires creating protected time. You can't expect deep thinking to happen in an environment that constantly interrupts you. Set aside blocks of time where you're unreachable. Turn off notifications. Put your phone in another room. Let others know you're not available during that time. Focus doesn't thrive by accident. It requires intention and space. It's not always convenient, but it is always worth it. Your environment reflects your mind. Cluttered surroundings create mental friction. If your desk, room, or workspace is filled with random items, unfinished tasks, or open tabs, your mind absorbs that clutter. Take time to organize your space. Remove what you don't need. Put things in order. You'll notice a subtle shift inside. Physical clarity supports mental clarity. The outer world and the inner world are more connected than we think. Rest is also a necessary part of focus. Exhausted minds can't concentrate. If you're constantly tired, overworked, or overstimulated, you won't be able to focus, no matter how hard you try. Prioritize sleep. Step away from screens before bed. Create a winding down ritual that signals to your brain it's time to slow down. Focus is not just about what you do during the day, it's also about how well you recover. Give your brain time to rest so it can work at its best when you need it. Building focus isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. Some days will be clearer than others. That's okay. What matters is that you return to the practice. You catch yourself when you drift. You recommit to clarity. You simplify what you can. And over time, you create a mind that isn't ruled by chaos, but guided by discipline. When you reduce the noise, you begin to hear yourself again. You notice what matters. You make better decisions. You respond rather than react. You move through the day with purpose instead of just surviving it. Focus gives you your power back. It allows you to create, to grow, to lead, and to live with depth. In a world full of noise, your ability to stay clear is a rare and valuable strength. And it starts with removing what you no longer need, inside and out. Chapter 4. Test every idea by using real-life proof. Ideas are everywhere. You hear them from people, read them in books, see them in videos, and form them in your own mind. Some ideas sound wise, others sound exciting, and many sound convincing. But sounding good doesn't make something true. Thinking clearly means you don't take ideas at face value. It means you test them against something stronger than words. You test them against what actually works. You test them against real life. When you rely only on theory, you create assumptions. You expect results based on what should happen, not on what does happen. And that gap between expectation and reality is where most people become lost. They try advice that sounds smart but fails them. They hold beliefs that comfort them but lead to poor choices. They follow ideas they've never questioned and end up confused when life doesn't respond the way they hoped. The cure is simple, but not always easy. Proof over opinion. An idea has value only if it holds up in the real world. If it improves your choices, helps others, or solves a real problem, it earns its place. But if an idea weakens your results, traps you in false thinking, or leads you away from truth, it must be changed or discarded, no matter how good it sounds. Truth is not found in how loudly something is said or how many people agree with it. It's found by testing. It's found through observation. It's found by paying attention to what actually happens, not what people promise. Start by questioning your own ideas. Ask yourself where they came from. Did you try them, or did you just accept them? Have they made your life clearer or more complicated? Do they match what you see happening around you? You don't have to abandon everything you believe, but you do need to hold your ideas with strength and humility. Strength means you're not easily shaken. Humility means you're willing to change when reality teaches you something new. This balance keeps your thinking honest. Real-life proof often begins with experience. You try something. You observe what happens. You reflect on the result. Then you adjust. This process takes patience, but it's how real knowledge is built. Don't just think about what might work. Apply it. Don't assume an idea is right because it's popular. Put it to the test. If someone tells you a strategy will bring peace, try it and see if your stress actually reduces. If a method is said to improve discipline, use it and track your consistency. If a belief is said to bring clarity, apply it during confusion and observe what shifts. Ideas that are true will prove themselves. They don't need to be defended with emotion. They hold up on their own. Be cautious with second-hand certainty. People will speak with great confidence about things they've never tested. They repeat ideas passed down from others without ever asking if they work. Just because something has been said many times doesn't make it useful. The danger isn't just in being wrong, it's in being confident about something that doesn't serve you. This kind of false confidence blocks growth. It convinces you that you already know, when in reality, you haven't looked closely enough. One of the most powerful habits you can build is tracking results. If you apply an idea, write down what happens. Measure your progress. Track how you feel. Document the effects. Over time you'll gather proof. You'll know what works for you, not in theory but in practice. This personal evidence becomes your guide. It gives you clarity. Others can't shake. It keeps you rooted in truth instead of trends. Most people don't track. They move through life by memory and emotion, which are unreliable. If you want your thinking to sharpen, let real life become your feedback system. Another benefit of testing ideas is it builds resilience. When you try something and it fails, you learn. That lesson stays with you. It gives you a deeper understanding than someone who only imagines what might happen. Failure is not the enemy of truth. It's one of its best teachers. But only if you're paying attention. People who avoid testing ideas often do so because they fear being wrong. They attach their identity to being right. But this mindset keeps them fragile. Strong minds seek truth more than they seek comfort. They know that being wrong is just part of becoming wise. Also pay attention to patterns. Life leaves clues. If an idea works once, that's interesting. If it works repeatedly across situations, it's powerful. But if it only works under certain perfect conditions, it's limited. Wisdom is found in ideas that endure under pressure, stress, and challenge. A good idea doesn't just work when you're feeling great. It works when you're tired, uncertain, or under stress. That's when proof matters most. Be willing to experiment. You don't need to commit to an idea forever. You can test it for a day, a week, or a month. Keep your trials small and manageable. Try a new morning routine. Practice a different mindset during conflict. Change how you respond to setbacks. Take notes on how it affects your clarity, energy, and behavior. These small tests add up. They sharpen your judgment. They make you less dependent on guesswork. Also remember that results don't always show up instantly. Some ideas require time to reveal their truth. You must be patient and consistent. If you're testing an idea to improve your focus, for example, give it several days of honest effort before making a decision. Rushed judgments can make you abandon something valuable too early. Let time be part of your testing process. But stay honest about what you're seeing. If an idea brings more confusion than clarity, more stress than strength, more excuses than results, you don't need to keep forcing it. Let it go. Critical thinkers don't chase certainty. They seek understanding. They ask better questions. They compare results. They adjust when needed. And they stay open to learning. Their minds are not rigid but grounded. They don't argue for ideas just to win. They explore them to grow. This mindset creates freedom. It allows you to think for yourself, choose wisely, and build a life that is rooted in reality, not opinion. The world is full of noise. Everyone has a theory. But your mind is too valuable to be shaped by untested ideas. You don't have to follow what sounds right. You have the power to find out what is right. You do that by looking at what works. You do that by thinking, testing, learning, and applying. You do that by turning ideas into action and letting the results speak. This is how you build a mind that sees clearly, not through loud beliefs, but through quiet proof. Chapter 5. Sharpen your judgment by slowing down your reactions. Most people act before they think. They react instead of responding. They speak too soon, decide too quickly, and assume too often. And with every fast reaction, their judgment becomes weaker. Wisdom doesn't rush. It observes, it listens. It considers what's not being said. It creates space between what happens and how you respond to it. That space is where clarity lives, and without it, you become a slave to impulse. Slowing down your reactions doesn't mean you freeze or avoid taking action. It means you hold your ground long enough to understand what's really happening. It means you give yourself permission to wait, reflect, and assess. The sharpest minds are not those who always know the answer, but those who give themselves time to ask the right question. The moment between an event and your reaction is the moment where growth is possible. If you fill that space with automatic emotion, you lose your power. But if you fill it with awareness, you gain control. The brain is built for speed. It wants to resolve tension quickly. It wants to judge, label, and react without doing the deeper work. This mental shortcut is helpful in survival situations, but in daily life, it leads to regret. It makes you speak words you can't take back. It drives you to make decisions you later wish you hadn't. It locks you into opinions without evidence. In today's world where speed is worshipped and instant reaction is rewarded, slowing down becomes an act of strength. Slowing down means stepping back from the urge to prove yourself. It means resisting the pull to be right in every conversation. It means staying calm in the presence of chaos. When someone offends you, your first instinct might be to defend or attack. But that first reaction is often shaped by ego, not wisdom. If you pause for just a moment, you give yourself access to better options. You might decide it's not worth engaging. You might ask a clarifying question. You might see the pain behind their words instead of taking them personally. This shift changes the entire outcome. You don't need to respond immediately to most things. If someone sends you a message that upsets you, you don't have to answer right away. If a situation feels urgent, that doesn't mean it is. Urgency can be a trap that tricks you into rushed decisions. Strong judgment comes from being grounded, not pressured. People who act under pressure tend to regret their choices. People who take a breath, gather information, and wait for emotional dust to settle make better decisions. Slowing down also allows you to see the bigger picture. In the heat of the moment, everything feels large. But feelings shrink with time. What seems like a crisis now often feels small tomorrow. If you react too quickly, you give temporary feelings permanent power. But if you wait, you see the truth more clearly. Time is not just a healer, it's a revealer. It shows you what matters and what doesn't. One of the most effective practices for sharpening judgment is to build a pause into your daily responses. When you feel triggered, don't immediately respond. Sit with the discomfort. Notice your internal tension. Let your body calm before your mind acts. In that pause, ask yourself, what's really going on here? What matters most in this moment? What will I wish I had done when I look back later? These questions won't make your emotions disappear, but they give your thinking room to breathe. In conversation, listen more than you speak. Most people listen to reply, not to understand. They're waiting for their turn to speak, crafting their defense before the other person even finishes. This habit weakens your judgment. You miss context, overlook meaning, and react from assumption. But when you truly listen, you slow down the mental rush to respond. You give space for deeper understanding. You hear what isn't said. You notice tone, body language, and subtle cues. This depth of awareness leads to better conclusions. Another way to sharpen judgment is to delay important decisions. If a choice will affect your future, your finances, your relationships, or your time, don't make it in a heightened emotional state. Emotions can guide, but they shouldn't control. Sleep on big decisions. Write about them. Talk to people you trust. Examine the long-term consequences. Ask yourself how this decision aligns with your values, not just your moods. People who make decisions from impulse often find themselves trapped in consequences they didn't consider. There is a difference between acting fast and acting wisely. Speed is only useful when paired with accuracy. Without accuracy, speed becomes recklessness. The goal is not to slow down everything in life, but to slow down enough to ensure your actions are aligned with clarity. Sometimes the wisest choice is immediate, but even in those cases, it is clarity, not rush, that makes the decision strong. Learning to pause takes practice. You may still react quickly at times, but over time, the space will grow. You'll notice more. You'll catch yourself before you say something you regret. You'll stop arguments before they escalate. You'll avoid traps disguised as opportunities. You'll respond to challenges with strategy, not just emotion. And most importantly, you'll feel more in control of your own mind. True power is not loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't chase control. It chooses when to speak, when to act, and when to wait. Sharpening your judgment is not about becoming distant or detached. It's about becoming deliberate. It's about recognizing that every reaction shapes your path, and that slowing down is not weakness but wisdom. In a world moving faster every day, those who slow down gain an edge. They see what others miss. They make fewer mistakes. They recover faster from setbacks. They lead themselves with discipline. Slowing down doesn't mean doing less. It means doing what matters most with greater purpose. It means using your time, energy, and attention in ways that align with your values, not your impulses. You don't have to live in reaction. You don't have to be ruled by urgency. You can choose calm over chaos. You can choose observation over assumption. You can choose thoughtful action over emotional reaction. And every time you make that choice, you strengthen your judgment, not by accident, not by chance, but by consistent practice of something simple and powerful, slowing down. Chapter 6. Grow your clarity by writing out your thoughts. Most people carry a storm of thoughts in their heads without realizing how much it clouds their understanding. When the mind is full of noise, scattered worries, and vague impressions, it becomes harder to see what truly matters. Clarity does not come from thinking harder, it comes from thinking better. And the fastest way to think better is to write. Writing brings structure to confusion. It makes the invisible visible. It allows you to observe your mind instead of being trapped inside it. When you write, you take what's vague and make it exact. Thoughts that feel heavy in your head often shrink once they hit the page. What felt like a tangled problem becomes a simple sentence. Writing gives shape to your emotions, your ideas, your plans, and your doubts. It helps you understand why you feel what you feel. It shows you what's behind the tension in your chest or the weight on your mind. Writing doesn't always give you answers right away, but it clears space for answers to emerge. Clarity is not about having everything figured out. It's about being honest about what you know and what you don't. When you write your thoughts out, you stop pretending. You face what's real. You see the contradictions in your beliefs. You notice how your moods affect your conclusions. You uncover assumptions that have been guiding your behavior. This is how you grow your clarity, not by chasing certainty, but by becoming more truthful with yourself. The process of writing slows your thinking just enough to catch it. When thoughts stay in your head, they blend together. One fear overlaps with another. One goal distracts from a deeper need. But when you write, each idea stands on its own. You start to notice which thoughts are helping you and which ones are not. You see the difference between worry and wisdom, between emotion and fact. Writing separates signal from noise. You don't need to write beautifully. You don't need perfect grammar. You don't even need to write for long. What matters is that you write honestly. A few minutes each day is enough to begin building clarity. Write what's bothering you. Write what you're grateful for. Write the questions you can't stop thinking about. Write the choices you're unsure of. As the words appear on the page, your mind begins to settle. And in that stillness, truth becomes easier to recognize. Many people avoid writing because they fear what they might discover. It's easier to distract yourself than to confront your uncertainty. But real growth only happens when you're willing to face your own thinking. Writing removes the filter. It shows you where you've been lying to yourself. It reveals patterns you've repeated for years. It shines a light on the thoughts you've avoided out of fear. And once you see them, you're no longer at their mercy. Writing also helps you prepare for challenges. Before an important conversation, write down what you want to say. Before making a tough decision, write down the risks and rewards. When your mind feels scattered, take 10 minutes to list your priorities. This simple act of putting thoughts into words can prevent countless mistakes. It gives you a reference point when your emotions try to take over. It creates a foundation of intention instead of reaction. If you struggle to focus, writing can bring you back. If you feel overwhelmed, writing can slow your heart rate. If you feel confused, writing can lead you toward insight. There is no situation in life that cannot be improved by gaining more clarity, and writing is the path that gets you there. You might think better when you talk to others, but even in conversation, your thoughts are shaped by social pressure, expectations, or the fear of being judged. Writing is private. It's a space where you can be fully honest without fear. That privacy creates freedom. You can say what you really mean. You can explore thoughts you're not ready to share. You can practice being real with yourself before being real with the world. Over time, writing becomes more than a tool. It becomes a habit of discipline. It keeps your thoughts in order. It reduces the chaos of your inner world. It builds the mental muscles you need to think independently, to make better decisions, and to understand yourself on a deeper level. The more you write, the more you realize how often your mind runs on autopilot. You start to challenge your automatic thoughts. You learn to think more slowly, more clearly, and more deliberately. Writing is not just for processing problems, it's also for recognizing progress. When you look back at what you wrote a week ago, a month ago, or a year ago, you begin to see how much you've grown. You see how problems that once felt massive have faded. You recognize strengths you didn't see at the time. This perspective gives you confidence. It shows you that even when life feels uncertain, you are moving forward to grow your clarity. Start by making writing a daily practice. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait for a problem. Just sit down and write whatever comes to mind. Let it be messy. Let it be honest. Write until the tension softens. Write until you feel your mind breathe. Some days you may only write a few sentences. Other days you may find yourself going deeper than you expected. Either way, you are training your mind to slow down and reflect. Writing is not about recording your life. It's about revealing your mind. It's about seeing what's behind your choices, your reactions, and your desires. It's about sorting through confusion to find clarity, and once you begin, you'll wonder how you lived so long without it. Because with every word you write, you strengthen your ability to think, you sharpen your awareness, you stop living passively and start engaging with your life more consciously. There's a quiet power in picking up a pen or opening a blank page. It's the moment you stop consuming and start creating. It's the moment you stop running and start reflecting. It's the moment you stop pretending to have it all figured out and begin understanding yourself for real. Clarity isn't given, it's earned, and writing is how you earn it. Chapter 7. Solve real problems by breaking them into steps. Most problems feel bigger than they are because they live in your head as one overwhelming block. They carry emotion, fear, and the pressure of time, all tied into one heavy thought that loops endlessly. You replay the situation, feel the weight of the unknown, and begin to convince yourself that it's more complicated than it is. This is what makes many people freeze, not because they can't solve the issue, but because they don't know where to start. The real skill is not brute intelligence or talent. It's the ability to break a problem down into steps so small that you stop feeling overwhelmed and start moving forward. The mind doesn't like confusion. It seeks order. When a problem is messy and undefined, it triggers anxiety. But the moment you begin to dissect it into smaller, actionable parts, it becomes manageable. The pressure decreases. Your thinking becomes sharper. You stop fearing the outcome and start understanding the process. Most people wait for motivation or clarity to appear before they act. But clarity comes from motion, not the other way around. You get clearer as you begin solving, and that begins by dividing the whole into pieces. When you're stuck with a challenge, the first step is to define exactly what the problem is, not the drama around it, not the emotions it stirs up, not the possible disasters you imagine, but the specific issue that needs solving. This forces your mind to focus. It moves you from feeling helpless to feeling capable. A problem that is clearly named is already half solved. You move from everything is falling apart to I need to renegotiate my deadline. You shift from I can't do this anymore to I need help managing this task. Specificity reduces fear. It strips the problem of its emotional fog. Next, you ask yourself, what is the smallest possible step I can take? Not the entire solution, not the ideal fix, but the smallest forward movement. It could be a phone call, writing an email, listing resources, or reviewing facts. What matters is that it gets you out of the loop and into a rhythm. Small steps break inertia. They give you proof that progress is possible. They build momentum where there was none, and that movement gives you confidence, even if the full path isn't clear yet. Every big achievement is the result of tiny steps repeated over time. Solving complex issues is not about genius insight, it's about endurance and structure. The best problem solvers don't try to leap from chaos to resolution in one giant jump. They build bridges, they map out stages, they create order from the mess by seeing the layers. You can do the same by asking the right questions. What needs to happen first? Who is involved? What are the constraints? What can I influence right now? These questions shift your thinking from emotional reaction to strategic reasoning. Most people carry two versions of a problem: the real issue and their fear of what it means. That fear exaggerates consequences, misjudges timelines, and invites panic. The antidote is process. When you have a process, you become less reactive. You stop depending on willpower and start relying on a system. That system is simply a breakdown of tasks, sequenced in a way that gives your brain structure to follow. You no longer ask yourself how to fix everything, you only ask what comes next. One of the most effective tools is to write the problem at the top of a page, and then underneath, write every possible step involved in solving it. Don't judge the steps, just list them. Include the easy ones, include the things you've been avoiding, include things you're not sure how to do. The act of writing them out not only clarifies the situation, but also quiets the chaos in your head. When the full list is in front of you, you stop imagining worst-case scenarios and start dealing with facts. Then you look at that list and ask, which of these steps can I do now? Not tomorrow, not next week, now. And once you complete it, you look for the next step. This isn't about speed, it's about progress. Most of life's problems are solved through patience and consistent small actions. People burn out when they try to fix too much at once. But when you focus on just the next step, you maintain energy and direction. Some problems aren't solved quickly. They require waiting, gathering information, or working with others. But even those can be broken into meaningful actions. Maybe the step is research. Maybe it's preparing a proposal. Maybe it's asking for help. You can always find a step. Even reflection is a step. Even deciding not to act yet can be a conscious part of the plan. The key is to stay out of emotional paralysis by staying in deliberate action. It's also important to accept that every step won't be perfect. You'll make mistakes. You'll rethink things. But movement brings feedback. Feedback brings clarity, and clarity improves your decisions. When you treat problem solving as a process rather than a performance, you remove the need to get everything right on the first try. You give yourself room to think, adapt, and grow. There's dignity in working through difficulty with discipline. There's power in meeting complexity with structure. Every time you solve a problem by breaking it into steps, you strengthen your ability to face life with calm and strategy. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as someone who can shape outcomes. That belief changes how you walk through the world. It builds resilience, because no matter what comes, you trust yourself to face it one step at a time. You don't need all the answers right away. You just need a method. A way to move forward without being crushed by the weight of it all. That method is always within your control. You define the problem, remove the emotion, list the steps, act on one, and repeat. In doing so, you transform chaos into clarity. And that is how real problems get solved. Chapter 8. Build your discipline by thinking before every choice. Discipline is the foundation on which all success is built. It is the quiet force behind every achievement, the steady hand that guides us through moments of temptation and uncertainty. Yet discipline doesn't happen by chance. It is not a trait some people are born with and others aren't. Discipline is a skill that grows when you decide to think before every choice you make. This moment of pause, this deliberate space between impulse and action, is where your power lies. Every day, countless decisions demand your attention. Some are small, almost automatic, while others carry weight and consequence. The habit of thinking before choosing does not require grand gestures. It begins in the everyday. When you pause to consider your options, even in minor moments, you build a muscle that strengthens your entire character. The brain learns to slow down, assess, and act with intention rather than reflex. This simple act transforms chaos into control. Thinking before making a choice means shifting from autopilot to awareness. When decisions are rushed or made emotionally, they often lead to regret or distraction. When you cultivate the habit of reflection, you give yourself time to consider outcomes, align actions with values, and avoid unnecessary mistakes. This is how discipline protects your long-term goals from the lure of immediate gratification. It creates a clear boundary between what feels good in the moment and what truly serves you. Start by recognizing the small moments where you habitually react without thought. Maybe it's reaching for your phone the second a notification pops up. Perhaps it's responding sharply to someone without listening fully. It could be eating or spending impulsively. These moments are not failures, they are opportunities to train your mind. When you catch yourself in the act, take a breath and ask what you really want in that situation. This awareness is the seed of discipline. Discipline is not about restriction or punishment. It is about freedom, the freedom to choose what aligns with your values and goals. Thinking before every choice is a way to honor yourself. It means you don't surrender control to fleeting feelings or external pressures. Instead, you stand firm in your ability to decide consciously. This practice sharpens your judgment, helps you prioritize effectively, and gradually rewires your habits. When faced with decisions, large or small, pause briefly to ask 3 simple questions. What are my options? What are the possible consequences? Which choice aligns with what matters most? Answering these questions doesn't have to take long. Even a few seconds of deliberate thought can shift your behavior profoundly. The brain thrives on patterns, and when you build this pattern consistently, you develop a reliable decision-making process. This discipline also helps you resist distractions that steal time and energy. In a world full of constant stimuli, thinking before acting allows you to maintain focus. It prevents impulsive reactions that often derail progress. When you cultivate this habit, you notice how your actions become more purposeful and your days more productive. You reclaim control over your attention and use it where it counts. Another powerful benefit of thinking before every choice is emotional regulation. Often impulsive decisions come from reacting to strong emotions, anger, fear, excitement. By inserting a moment of thought, you create space to observe your feelings without being driven by them. This space helps you respond thoughtfully rather than react destructively. Over time, you build emotional resilience, which is a cornerstone of discipline. Discipline through thoughtful decision-making requires patience and persistence. There will be times when you slip back into old habits of instant reaction. This is natural and expected. The key is not to judge yourself harshly, but to return to the practice with kindness and determination. Every time you pause to think, you reinforce the habit and deepen your self-control. Gradually, this becomes second nature. Journaling can be a powerful tool to strengthen this discipline. At the end of each day, reflect on moments where you acted with intention versus moments where you reacted impulsively. Writing down what you learned from these experiences helps solidify your awareness. It also encourages accountability to yourself. This reflection turns abstract ideas into concrete lessons that guide future behavior. Building discipline is also about understanding that every choice shapes your identity. You are not just making decisions in isolation, you are constructing the person you become. Each thoughtful choice reinforces a version of yourself that values control, clarity, and purpose. Over time, these small acts define your character more than any single achievement. This awareness provides motivation to keep practicing, even when it feels challenging. It's important to recognize the power of environment in supporting discipline. Surround yourself with people and settings that encourage deliberate action rather than impulsivity. Remove or reduce temptations that make impulsive decisions easier. For example, if you want to avoid distractions, create spaces dedicated to focused work. If you want healthier habits, keep tempting junk food out of reach. Thoughtful choices extend beyond the moment. They include designing your world to help you succeed. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about commitment. Even when you fail to think before a choice, you can choose to get back on track. This cycle of effort, slip and return builds resilience and humility. It teaches you that discipline is a lifelong practice, not a one-time achievement. Accepting this truth frees you from the pressure of being perfect and invites steady growth. As discipline strengthens, decision fatigue lessens. When you think before every choice, you reduce wasted energy on regrets and corrections. Your mind becomes clearer and your actions more aligned with your goals. This creates a virtuous cycle where discipline feeds confidence, and confidence fuels further discipline. This feedback loop is essential for sustained personal growth and critical thinking. In moments of doubt, remind yourself that discipline begins with the willingness to pause. This willingness is a form of respect for your future self. It honors your dreams by preventing careless decisions that could derail your path. Each thoughtful choice is a step toward the life you want to live. This perspective transforms discipline from a chore into a meaningful commitment to your own excellence. The journey to build discipline by thinking before every choice will not always be easy. It requires conscious effort to interrupt ingrained habits. It demands courage to face discomfort and uncertainty. But the rewards are profound. You gain clarity in decision-making, control over impulses, and alignment with your highest values. These benefits ripple into every area of life: relationships, career, health, and self-esteem. In practical terms, build your discipline by creating simple reminders to pause. Use alarms, notes, or mental triggers to catch impulsive moments. Practice mindful breathing or counting to 3 before acting. These techniques create a buffer between stimulus and response. Over time, this buffer grows and the pause becomes instinctive. The power of this habit lies not in a single act but in consistent repetition. Ultimately, discipline through thoughtful choice is about mastery over yourself. It is a demonstration of inner strength that no external force can take away. You become the captain of your actions, the architect of your life. With each choice carefully considered, you carve out a path defined by purpose rather than chance. This is the essence of true freedom, the freedom that comes from self-control. This approach to discipline is not about limiting your spontaneity or joy. It is about ensuring that your spontaneous moments are aligned with your deeper goals. By choosing consciously, you make space for both creativity and responsibility. You live intentionally, not reactively. This balance is what allows you to grow steadily without burning out or losing direction. Building discipline through thinking before every choice empowers you to navigate complexity with confidence. It gives you the tools to face challenges calmly, to resist distractions, and to move forward even when motivation falters. This skill becomes a foundation for lifelong learning, resilience, and success. It transforms decision-making from a source of stress into a source of strength. The practice of pausing before acting trains the mind to become a clear observer rather than a reactive participant. This shift is essential for critical thinking because it allows you to analyze situations thoroughly and make informed judgments. Discipline and critical thinking are partners that reinforce each other. Together they create a mindset capable of navigating any situation with clarity and courage. In the end, building discipline by thinking before every choice is an act of self-respect and commitment to growth. It means choosing yourself in moments when it's easiest to give in to impulses. It means valuing the long term over the short term. It means living with intention every day. This habit may seem small at first, but its impact on your life will be profound and lasting. It is a powerful way to improve your critical thinking skills and transform your life. Chapter 9. Expand your mind by learning something uncomfortable daily. Growth rarely happens in comfort zones. When your mind is stretched beyond familiar boundaries, that's when real expansion occurs. Learning something uncomfortable each day is a powerful way to keep your thinking sharp and your perspective fresh. It pushes you into new territories of understanding, even if it feels awkward or challenging at first. This daily commitment to discomfort acts like a gym for your brain, training it to adapt, question, and grow without shrinking back. The instinct to avoid discomfort is natural. We prefer what feels safe, known, and easy. Yet, staying within these boundaries limits our ability to see things differently or solve complex problems. When you deliberately seek out ideas or skills that unsettle your usual way of thinking, you open doors to new possibilities. The discomfort you experience signals that your mind is stretching, making room for deeper insight and stronger resilience. This daily practice doesn't have to be monumental. It could be as simple as reading an article that challenges your beliefs, exploring a topic you know little about, or trying a new skill that feels unfamiliar. The key is consistency and willingness to face the unease without shutting down or retreating. Over time, this builds a habit of curiosity that refuses to settle for easy answers and surface-level knowledge. Learning something uncomfortable daily also trains your brain to tolerate uncertainty. Many people avoid complexity because it creates confusion or discomfort, but embracing uncertainty is essential for critical thinking. When you accept that not all answers are clear or immediate, you develop patience and a deeper capacity to explore. This mindset turns confusion from a roadblock into a stepping stone for discovery. When you push yourself to engage with uncomfortable ideas, you also expose blind spots in your thinking. These blind spots are areas where biases, assumptions, or gaps in knowledge hide. Without confronting discomfort, these remain invisible and continue to limit your growth. But when you challenge yourself regularly, you start to see these weaknesses clearly. This awareness is the first step to overcoming them. Expanding your mind daily through discomfort also builds mental flexibility. The ability to adapt your thinking to new information or perspectives is vital in a world that constantly changes. If your mind stays rigid, you risk becoming outdated or stuck in ineffective habits. By contrast, embracing discomfort teaches you to pivot, reconsider, and refine your ideas. This adaptability is a hallmark of intelligence and wisdom. Another benefit of this practice is increased confidence in handling challenges. The more you expose yourself to unfamiliar or difficult concepts, the less intimidating they become. What once seemed confusing or overwhelming gradually becomes manageable. This confidence spills over into other areas of life, allowing you to tackle problems with a calm and open mindset. This process is not about forcing yourself to like every uncomfortable idea or agree with it. Rather, it's about developing the courage to face what you might resist or avoid. It means being willing to listen without immediate judgment and to question your own reactions. This openness deepens your understanding and strengthens your ability to engage constructively with diverse perspectives. The discomfort of learning something new can sometimes trigger frustration or self-doubt. This is natural. When you encounter complexity, it's easy to feel overwhelmed or question your abilities. The difference lies in your response. Instead of giving up, remind yourself that discomfort is a signal of growth. Persist through these moments, knowing that the struggle will lead to greater clarity and strength. To sustain this habit, make learning uncomfortable daily a part of your routine. Set aside time each day for reading, listening, or practicing something that challenges your current knowledge or skills. Treat this time as an investment in your intellectual health. Just as physical exercise requires regular effort, so does mental expansion. This consistency makes discomfort familiar and less intimidating over time. Seek out sources that are reputable but diverse in viewpoint. Exposure to a variety of ideas, even those you disagree with, enriches your thinking. When you engage respectfully with contrasting opinions, you sharpen your reasoning and gain empathy. This broader perspective reduces the risk of becoming trapped in echo chambers that reinforce existing beliefs without challenge. Incorporate reflection as part of this daily learning. After engaging with something uncomfortable, take a moment to consider what it revealed about your own mindset. Did it expose an assumption you hadn't noticed? Did it raise questions you hadn't considered before? Reflection deepens the learning process and connects new insights to your existing knowledge. Sharing what you learn with others can also enhance this growth. Conversations that explore difficult ideas create opportunities for feedback and further insight. They test your understanding and force you to articulate your thoughts clearly. This social aspect of learning turns discomfort into dialogue, building not only your mind but your relationships. Remember, expanding your mind is a lifelong journey, not a destination. There will always be new ideas to grapple with and new skills to acquire. Accepting this keeps your curiosity alive and prevents stagnation. The willingness to face discomfort daily means you are constantly evolving, staying sharp and open to the richness life offers. Ultimately, learning something uncomfortable every day empowers you to become a thinker who is not easily swayed by comfort or convenience. It makes you resilient to the noise of quick judgments and shallow opinions. You develop a mind that seeks truth over ease and values depth over simplicity. This strength transforms the way you approach problems, decisions, and interactions. As your mind expands, you notice a growing tolerance for ambiguity and complexity. You no longer need every answer immediately, or expect things to fit neatly into familiar categories. This acceptance opens the door to creativity and innovation. You begin to see connections and possibilities that others might miss, because they cling too tightly to what they already know. This practice also builds humility. When you regularly encounter ideas that challenge your understanding, you recognize the limits of your knowledge. This humility is not weakness, it is the foundation of wisdom. It motivates continuous learning and guards against arrogance. With humility, your mind remains open and your growth remains vibrant. Incorporating discomfort into your learning sharpens not only your intellect, but also your character. It trains patience, courage, openness, and resilience. These qualities serve you in every aspect of life, from personal relationships to professional challenges. They give you the strength to face uncertainty with grace and the confidence to keep moving forward. The power of expanding your mind daily through discomfort lies in the transformation that happens quietly over time. You become someone who does not shy away from hard questions or difficult truths. Instead, you approach them with curiosity and determination. This mindset change is subtle but profound, setting you apart as a thinker capable of navigating complexity with clarity and courage. In moments when discomfort feels too much, remind yourself why you started. Each uncomfortable lesson is a brick in the foundation of your wisdom and resilience. This perspective helps you embrace the challenge rather than resist it. You grow not despite discomfort, but because of it. As you continue this practice, you build a mental landscape rich with diverse ideas and deeper understanding. This landscape becomes a wellspring of creativity, insight, and strength. It equips you to face the unknown with confidence and to solve problems with greater skill. Expanding your mind by learning something uncomfortable daily is one of the most powerful commitments you can make for a lifetime of growth and fulfillment. Chapter 10. Practice self-awareness by reviewing your daily thinking habits. Self-awareness is the foundation upon which critical thinking is built. To improve the quality of your thoughts, you must first understand how you think every day. This begins with a deliberate practice of reviewing your mental habits, noticing patterns, biases, and automatic reactions. Most people move through life on autopilot, unaware of how their thoughts shape their feelings and actions. By becoming vigilant observers of your own mind, you gain power over it instead of remaining at its mercy. Every day presents a mirror reflecting your mental state. The questions you ask yourself, the assumptions you accept without question, and the judgments you make all form a complex web of thinking habits. These patterns often operate beneath conscious awareness, but dictate your decisions and emotional responses. To refine your mind, start by paying attention to these invisible processes. This is not an exercise in self-criticism, but a journey toward clarity and mastery. Begin your practice by setting aside a quiet moment, preferably at the end of the day. Reflect on the thoughts that dominated your mind. Which ones were constructive, leading you toward solutions and understanding? Which ones trapped you in doubt, fear, or distraction? Notice how your thoughts influenced your mood and actions. This reflection is the seed of self-awareness, gradually illuminating the dark corners of your mental landscape. When you review your thinking habits, look for recurring themes. Do you tend to jump to conclusions without sufficient evidence? Are there moments when your mind spirals into negativity or exaggeration? Identifying these tendencies allows you to intervene and change course. You become aware of mental shortcuts that may have served you in the past, but now limit your growth. This awareness opens the door to choosing new, healthier ways of thinking. An important aspect of this practice is recognizing cognitive biases, those invisible forces that twist your perception. Confirmation bias, for instance, leads you to favor information that supports your existing beliefs while ignoring contradictory evidence. By reviewing your daily thoughts, you catch when this bias sneaks in. Awareness of these patterns helps you pause and seek balanced perspectives, preventing narrow or distorted judgments. Self-awareness also shines light on emotional triggers within your thinking. Certain topics, situations, or people might provoke strong reactions that cloud your judgment. When you identify these triggers, you gain the ability to respond with intention rather than reflex. This shift transforms reactive thinking into thoughtful deliberation, strengthening your critical faculties and emotional resilience. Journaling is a powerful tool to deepen this self-review. Writing down your thoughts daily clarifies what occupies your mind and reveals habits you might miss in fleeting moments. It's a way to externalize internal dialogue, making it easier to analyze objectively. Over time, patterns emerge that provide insight into how you interpret experiences and where you can improve your thinking process. As you engage in this daily mental audit, you begin to distinguish between useful thoughts and mental noise. Not all thoughts deserve your attention. Some are distractions rooted in anxiety or unhelpful narratives. Learning to filter these out is an essential skill. You develop a mental discipline that focuses on thoughts contributing to your goals, values, and clarity, rather than feeding confusion or doubt. The practice of reviewing your thinking is also about embracing honesty. It requires you to confront uncomfortable truths about your mind, your blind spots, errors, and limitations. This can be unsettling but is necessary for growth. A mind unwilling to face its flaws stagnates. In contrast, honest self-examination leads to continuous improvement and a more accurate understanding of yourself and the world. This habit cultivates a sense of ownership over your thoughts. Instead of being swept away by every passing idea or emotion, you learn to stand back and choose which mental paths to follow. This ownership increases mental freedom and reduces impulsivity. You begin to realize that your thoughts are tools, not tyrants, and you can wield them with intention. Another benefit is the sharpening of your decision-making. When you regularly analyze how you think, you become aware of patterns that either support or undermine good choices. This insight helps you build better strategies for weighing options and anticipating consequences. Over time, your judgment becomes more reliable, informed by self-knowledge rather than fleeting impulses. The process of self-awareness through reviewing daily thinking also enhances your emotional intelligence. Understanding how your thoughts connect to feelings allows you to manage emotions more effectively. You gain clarity about why certain situations provoke stress, anger, or doubt. This clarity gives you the power to transform emotional turmoil into calm, constructive responses. This practice encourages patience. Change in thinking habits does not happen overnight. The mind resists unfamiliar territory, preferring the comfort of old patterns. But by consistently reviewing and reflecting, you chip away at these barriers. Small daily steps accumulate into lasting transformation, making your thinking sharper and more deliberate. To maintain this practice, develop a simple ritual. It could be a few minutes each evening to reflect silently, or a journal entry answering questions like, "What dominated my thoughts today? Were these thoughts helpful or harmful? How did my thinking influence my actions and feelings? What patterns did I notice?" This ritual anchors self-awareness into your daily routine, ensuring steady progress. Beyond personal reflection, consider inviting trusted feedback from others. Sometimes blind spots are clearer to those around us. Honest conversations about your thinking habits can reveal hidden biases or assumptions. This external perspective complements your internal review and accelerates growth. Self-awareness through reviewing your thinking is not about perfection, it's about progress and presence. It's a lifelong commitment to knowing yourself more deeply and guiding your mind toward clarity and wisdom. This discipline transforms mental clutter into coherent thought, impulsive reactions into considered responses, and confusion into insight. By practicing this daily habit, you cultivate a mental environment where clear, rational, and intentional thinking can flourish. You become less vulnerable to manipulation, less prone to error, and more capable of navigating complexity with calm and confidence. This clarity is the bedrock of effective critical thinking and the key to personal mastery. The benefits ripple beyond your inner world. Improved self-awareness influences your relationships, work, and decisions. When you understand your mental patterns, you communicate more clearly, resolve conflicts with greater empathy, and make choices aligned with your true values. Your presence becomes more grounded and authentic, inspiring trust and respect. This path requires courage and discipline. It asks you to pause regularly and look inward, sometimes confronting uncomfortable realities. Yet, the rewards are profound. The mind that is aware of itself is strong, adaptable, and wise. It is a mind prepared to face life's challenges with steadiness and clarity. Commit to this practice with patience and kindness toward yourself. Growth unfolds in layers, not leaps. Celebrate small insights and be gentle with setbacks. Over time, the habit of reviewing your daily thinking shapes you into a person who masters thoughts rather than being mastered by them. Through this continuous self-awareness, you build a mind that supports your highest potential. You become the architect of your thinking, designing it intentionally to serve your goals and values. This clarity of mind is not a gift, but a skill cultivated through consistent mindful practice. The journey to sharpen your critical thinking begins by understanding your own mental habits deeply. When you practice self-awareness by reviewing your daily thinking, you step into the role of a thoughtful observer and wise steward of your mind. This is the cornerstone of lasting personal growth and the pathway to a life lived with intention and insight. Chapter 11. Question authority by using logic over pressure. Questioning authority is a vital skill that separates thoughtful individuals from those who simply accept ideas because they come from a position of power. The essence of critical thinking lies not in blind obedience, but in the courage and clarity to examine claims, instructions, or rules regardless of their source. When pressure mounts to conform or comply, it becomes even more important to rely on logic and reason rather than emotional force or coercion. Many people feel intimidated by authority figures. This reaction is understandable. Society often trains us to respect hierarchy and follow orders without hesitation. Yet, respect does not mean surrendering your ability to think independently. True respect involves evaluating the validity and fairness of what is being presented, not just accepting it because of who is delivering it. When you engage with authority using your own reasoning, you build intellectual freedom and protect yourself from manipulation. At the core of questioning authority is the practice of detaching from pressure. Pressure can take many forms: social expectations, fear of repercussions, desire to fit in, or urgency created by those in charge. It's a force designed to limit reflection and override judgment. Learning to recognize when pressure is influencing your decisions allows you to pause and reassess the situation objectively. Instead of reacting immediately to commands or claims, create mental space to analyze the logic behind them. Ask yourself, does this instruction make sense? What evidence supports it? Are there any contradictions or inconsistencies? By focusing on facts and reasoning, you remove the emotional weight of pressure and approach the matter with clarity. It helps to remember that authority figures are human too, capable of errors, biases, and flawed reasoning. Position or title does not guarantee truth. Many historical and contemporary examples show how unquestioned authority has led to mistakes, injustice, and harm. Recognizing this fact empowers you to trust your intellect over mere status or force. Logic serves as a shield against undue influence. When you train yourself to think in terms of cause and effect, evidence, and consistent principles, you become immune to empty commands or manipulative rhetoric. This does not mean you reject authority wholesale, but that you engage with it critically, distinguishing valid guidance from baseless pressure. A practical way to question authority using logic is to ask clarifying questions. This approach shifts the dynamic from confrontation to inquiry. Instead of saying, "I don't accept this," try asking, "Can you explain the reasons behind this?" or "What evidence supports this decision?" Such questions encourage transparency and dialogue, allowing you to evaluate information more thoroughly. This habit also demonstrates confidence without disrespect. You show that your goal is understanding and truth, not rebellion. Often authority figures appreciate thoughtful engagement because it leads to better decisions and shared understanding. Your questions can reveal gaps or weaknesses in reasoning that might otherwise go unnoticed. It's important to develop emotional control in these moments. When confronted with pressure, the natural impulse might be to comply quickly or react defensively. Instead, practice remaining calm and centered. This emotional steadiness enhances your ability to think clearly and communicate effectively, even in challenging situations. Challenging authority logically also involves recognizing when to push back and when to accept. Not every directive or idea requires opposition. The key is distinguishing between unquestionable facts and areas where reasoning and evidence should guide your response. This discernment prevents needless conflict and fosters constructive interactions. Another layer of this skill is understanding the difference between authority and expertise. Authority relates to power or position, while expertise involves knowledge and experience. Questioning authority does not mean dismissing expertise. Rather, it means seeking evidence and logical consistency regardless of who presents the information. Expertise backed by sound reasoning commands respect. Power without reason does not. Developing this mindset requires ongoing practice. Start with small situations where authority tries to influence you without clear justification. Use logic to evaluate the claim, ask questions, and make decisions based on your findings. Over time, this builds confidence and sharpens your ability to stand firm in the face of greater pressure. Technology and information overload today create new challenges in questioning authority. Many sources claim authority: news outlets, social media, experts, and institutions, but not all deserve unquestioning trust. Applying logic to assess the credibility and validity of information is more crucial than ever. This means checking facts, identifying bias, and comparing multiple perspectives before forming conclusions. In professional or personal settings, questioning authority logically can prevent costly mistakes. Decisions based solely on hierarchy or pressure often overlook critical details or alternative options. When you step back to analyze reasoning, you improve outcomes and protect yourself and others from harm. This skill also encourages independence. When you learn to question authority thoughtfully, you rely less on external validation and more on your own mental resources. This strengthens your judgment and self-trust, vital traits for navigating complexity and uncertainty. There is also a social dimension to questioning authority with logic. It contributes to healthier communities where ideas are debated openly and decisions are made transparently. This culture reduces abuses of power and promotes fairness and justice. Your individual practice feeds into a collective environment of accountability and respect for truth. It is worth noting that questioning authority does not mean disrespect or cynicism. It is an act of responsibility and courage. Respectful inquiry advances knowledge and integrity, while blind acceptance can lead to stagnation and injustice. The difference lies in your approach, grounded in logic, calmness, and a sincere desire to understand. As you cultivate this approach, you will notice a shift in how others respond to you. People recognize and respect those who think clearly and question respectfully. Your voice gains influence because it is rooted in reason and not reaction. This empowers you to lead by example and inspire critical thinking in others. In moments when pressure intensifies, remind yourself of the value of logical analysis. Even when others expect immediate compliance, your thoughtful response honors your autonomy and protects your integrity. This is not rebellion for its own sake, but a principled stand for clear thinking. To strengthen this habit, consider practicing mental exercises that sharpen logical reasoning. Puzzles, debates, and studying principles of sound argumentation build mental muscles. The more skilled you become at analyzing claims, the easier it is to question authority intelligently. Reflect on your past experiences where pressure influenced your decisions. Were there times you acted without enough scrutiny? What were the consequences? Learning from these moments fuels your commitment to questioning authority with logic rather than submission. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. You no longer feel overwhelmed by authority or pressured into compliance. Instead, you engage thoughtfully, balance respect with inquiry, and make decisions grounded in reason. This mindset is a cornerstone of mature critical thinking and personal empowerment. Ultimately, the goal is to free your mind from coercion and lead with clarity. Questioning authority, using logic, protects your freedom to think independently and ensures that your choices are wise and informed. It is a skill that serves you throughout life, allowing you to navigate power dynamics with confidence and integrity. By standing firm on the foundation of logic, you develop resilience against manipulation and build a life shaped by deliberate, reasoned decisions. This strength benefits your relationships, work, and overall sense of self. You become a thoughtful participant in the world, capable of both respect and discernment. This ongoing commitment to questioning authority is a path to intellectual freedom. It reminds you that power alone does not dictate truth. Your mind, equipped with logic and calm inquiry, is your greatest tool for understanding and growth. When pressure arises, you answer not with blind compliance but with thoughtful challenge grounded in reason. Chapter 12. Strengthen your decisions by measuring risk and reward. Making strong decisions requires more than just intuition or impulse. It demands a clear understanding of what's at stake. Every choice we face carries both risks and rewards, and the skill lies in carefully weighing these factors before moving forward. This process isn't about avoiding risk altogether, but about measuring it wisely and balancing it against the potential benefits. When you begin to view decisions through the lens of risk and reward, you empower yourself to act with greater confidence and clarity. Instead of rushing into choices blindly, you pause to consider the possible outcomes, both positive and negative. This kind of thoughtful evaluation prevents costly mistakes and creates a foundation for consistent success. Risk can take many forms. It might mean financial loss, damage to relationships, wasted time, or even harm to your health or reputation. Rewards, on the other hand, represent the gains you hope to achieve: growth, satisfaction, profit, or improved well-being. Identifying these clearly is the first step toward making stronger decisions. A practical approach to measuring risk and reward starts with listing what you stand to lose and gain from a decision. Be specific. For example, if considering a new job opportunity, your risks might include a longer commute, unfamiliar work environment, or financial instability. The rewards might be higher income, new skills, or a more fulfilling role. Putting these factors side by side helps you visualize the balance. It's essential to be honest and realistic during this process. Overestimating rewards or minimizing risks can lead to poor choices. Similarly, excessive fear of risk can cause you to miss valuable opportunities. Strive for objectivity by seeking facts and evidence, and avoid letting emotions skew your assessment. Another important aspect is understanding your personal tolerance for risk. Some people feel comfortable with uncertainty and change, while others prefer stability and caution. Knowing where you fall on this spectrum guides how you interpret the risks involved. There is no universal right or wrong. It depends on your values and circumstances. When rewards significantly outweigh risks and the risks are manageable or mitigatable, the decision becomes easier. If the risks are high but the rewards are equally substantial, a more detailed plan is needed to minimize potential downsides. This might include contingency strategies, incremental steps, or seeking expert advice. Incorporating time into your evaluation adds depth. Consider short-term versus long-term consequences. Sometimes, a decision might involve short-term discomfort but lead to long-term gain. Other times, a quick reward might come with lasting negative effects. Being mindful of timelines helps you align choices with your broader goals. It also helps to think about the impact of your decisions on others. Risks and rewards don't exist in isolation. They often affect family, colleagues, or community. Factoring in these external effects deepens your understanding and can influence how you weigh different options. Developing this skill takes practice. Start with everyday decisions to build your ability to assess risk and reward quickly and accurately. For example, deciding how to spend your free time or whether to try a new activity can serve as useful exercises in balancing potential outcomes. Pay attention to past decisions and their results. Reflect on choices where you successfully balanced risk and reward, as well as those where you missed the mark. What lessons did you learn? How can you apply that knowledge to future situations? This reflection sharpens your judgment over time. Avoid paralysis by analysis. It's possible to get stuck trying to calculate every detail endlessly. At some point, a decision must be made based on the best information available. Accepting that uncertainty is part of life allows you to act decisively while still being thoughtful. A helpful mindset is to view decision-making as an ongoing process rather than a single moment. After deciding, observe the outcomes carefully and be ready to adjust your course if necessary. This flexibility reduces the fear of making a wrong choice because you know you can respond and learn. Using tools and frameworks can assist in this process. Techniques such as pros and cons lists, risk matrices, or decision trees help organize your thoughts and clarify complexities. These structured approaches bring discipline and consistency to how you evaluate options. Cultivating patience is crucial when measuring risk and reward. Rushed decisions often overlook important factors. Taking the time to gather relevant information, consult trusted sources, and weigh options thoroughly leads to stronger outcomes. Patience signals respect for the gravity of your choices. Another dimension is managing emotions. Fear, excitement, or pressure can cloud judgment. Developing emotional awareness helps you recognize when feelings influence your assessment unfairly. Techniques such as mindfulness or journaling support emotional clarity, ensuring decisions rest on balanced reasoning. Risk isn't inherently negative, it's a natural part of growth and progress. Without some willingness to accept risk, opportunities remain closed. The key is to engage with risk consciously, not recklessly, making calculated moves that align with your values and goals. Reward, too, deserves careful thought. Not all rewards are equal in significance. Some bring fleeting pleasure, while others contribute deeply to your sense of purpose and fulfillment. Clarifying what kind of rewards matter most to you focuses your decision-making toward meaningful outcomes. When facing complex decisions, breaking them into smaller parts can improve risk-reward analysis. Evaluate each component individually, then consider how they combine to shape the overall picture. This granular approach prevents overwhelm and promotes clearer insight. Seeking external perspectives adds valuable clarity. Trusted mentors, friends, or professionals can offer viewpoints you might miss. They may highlight risks you hadn't considered or point out rewards you overlooked. However, remember to maintain your own reasoning as the final guide. Learning to say no is an important outcome of mastering risk and reward evaluation. Not every opportunity is worth pursuing. Declining options that pose disproportionate risk or minimal reward preserves your energy and resources for better choices. Building discipline around this skill also means setting criteria for decisions in advance. When you establish what level of risk is acceptable and what rewards are worth pursuing, you create a framework that simplifies future choices. This reduces stress and speeds up your decision-making process. Life's unpredictability means no risk-reward analysis is perfect. Unforeseen factors will arise, but your goal is to prepare as well as possible and respond with agility. Confidence grows when you know you've thoughtfully considered the stakes, regardless of the outcome. In summary, strengthening your decisions through measuring risk and reward transforms how you approach challenges. It moves you from reactive to proactive, from uncertainty to informed action. This habit empowers you to make choices that are aligned with your vision and resilient against pitfalls. By consistently practicing this approach, you develop sharper judgment and greater trust in yourself. You learn to navigate complexities with calm assurance, turning potential threats into calculated opportunities. This balance is a cornerstone of wise decision-making and personal growth. Ultimately, the power to measure risk and reward thoughtfully shapes not only your decisions, but your entire life trajectory. It opens the door to purposeful progress and deeper satisfaction. The clearer you become in this process, the stronger your path forward becomes, steady, intentional, and filled with possibility. Chapter 13. Build stronger views by reading from multiple sources. To build stronger, more resilient views, it's crucial to expose yourself to a broad spectrum of ideas. Reading from multiple sources is not merely about gathering more information. It's about deepening your understanding and developing the ability to see an issue from various angles. This practice enriches your perspective and strengthens the foundation of your opinions. When you limit your reading to just one source or viewpoint, you risk falling into narrow thinking or confirmation bias. That happens when you only absorb information that supports what you already believe, reinforcing existing ideas without challenge. Over time, this can lead to rigid opinions that crumble when faced with opposing evidence. Diverse reading offers balance. Different authors approach subjects with unique backgrounds, biases, and priorities. By engaging with contrasting perspectives, you learn to identify nuances and complexities rather than accepting simplified narratives. This doesn't mean you must agree with everything you read, but it ensures you consider the full picture before forming conclusions. This process sharpens critical thinking. When confronted with conflicting ideas, you develop the skill to analyze the validity of arguments, check sources, and assess evidence. Instead of accepting claims at face value, you question motivations and logic. This habit protects you from misinformation and manipulative rhetoric. Reading broadly also increases your intellectual humility. Recognizing that no single source has all the answers encourages openness to change and growth. This humility creates space for learning and adaptability, qualities essential in a world that is constantly shifting. Building stronger views doesn't happen overnight. It requires intentional effort to seek out materials that challenge your comfort zone. If you tend to read only familiar authors or outlets, intentionally branch out. Explore works from different political leanings, cultures, or disciplines. Each new source adds layers to your understanding. For example, if you're trying to understand a complex social issue, reading only one newspaper or blog limits your knowledge. Including perspectives from academic research, international news, and voices from affected communities broadens your insight. This range of input allows you to see not just the surface details, but the underlying factors and implications. It's also valuable to compare contemporary sources with historical ones. Looking at how ideas have evolved over time helps you appreciate the context and progression behind current debates. It shows you what arguments have endured, which have shifted, and why. In the digital age, access to diverse sources is easier than ever. However, this convenience comes with challenges. Not every source is credible or well-informed. Distinguishing between trustworthy and unreliable information becomes a crucial skill. Check credentials, look for supporting data, and be wary of sensationalism or emotional appeals designed to sway rather than inform. Maintaining a balanced reading diet helps prevent intellectual fatigue or overwhelm. Instead of trying to consume everything at once, rotate through different types of sources regularly. This approach keeps your mind engaged and prevents tunnel vision. When you engage with multiple viewpoints, you also become better at articulating your own position. Understanding counter-arguments equips you to respond thoughtfully and confidently. It's easier to communicate your ideas when you've anticipated challenges and considered alternative reasoning. This breadth of knowledge fosters empathy as well. Seeing the world through different eyes helps you appreciate why others think differently. It softens judgment and builds bridges instead of walls, promoting dialogue over conflict. Strong views grounded in diverse reading are less likely to be swayed by fleeting trends or peer pressure. You develop a stable core of beliefs that can withstand scrutiny and change with new evidence, rather than breaking under pressure. It's important to cultivate curiosity in this process. Let the pursuit of knowledge be driven by genuine interest, not just the desire to confirm your opinions. Curiosity opens doors to unexpected insights and connections between ideas that might seem unrelated at first glance. Journaling or discussing what you read with others can deepen this practice. Writing forces you to organize your thoughts clearly, while conversations expose you to fresh interpretations. Both activities refine your thinking and reveal gaps in understanding. Avoid the trap of passive reading. Engage actively by questioning, summarizing, and reflecting on what you encounter. This turns reading from a passive intake of words into a dynamic exercise in reasoning and growth. Building stronger views is not about accumulating facts for debate, but developing wisdom through diverse knowledge. It's a journey from superficial understanding to profound insight, one that makes your perspectives richer, more flexible, and ultimately more reliable. In the end, reading widely strengthens your mental resilience. It equips you to face complexity with confidence and grace. Your opinions become tools for thoughtful engagement rather than rigid doctrines. This openness allows you to adapt and thrive in a world full of uncertainty and change. By committing to read from multiple sources, you empower yourself to become a lifelong learner, capable of navigating information overload with discernment and clarity. This habit transforms how you think, speak, and act, shaping not only your views but your very approach to life. Chapter 14. Raise your standards by expecting proof, not promises. Expecting proof instead of promises is one of the most powerful ways to raise your standards and protect yourself from disappointment. In a world full of empty assurances and vague commitments, holding firm to evidence becomes your anchor. It allows you to separate genuine intentions and capabilities from mere words that often fail to deliver. Too often, people rely on promises alone, trusting what is said without demanding tangible results. This habit leaves them vulnerable to unmet expectations, broken trust, and frustration. Words can sound convincing and hopeful, but without proof, they remain just that. Words. Learning to ask for proof raises the bar not only for others but also for yourself, fostering a mindset rooted in accountability and clarity. Proof acts as a clear measure of reliability. When someone offers evidence to back their claims, it signals respect for your time and intelligence. It shows they value follow-through and are willing to be held accountable. This transparency builds trust in a way that promises never can, because it is rooted in reality, not possibility. Raising your standards by demanding proof encourages others to match your expectations. When people know you expect concrete outcomes, they are more likely to deliver. It shifts interactions from vague assurances to specific commitments backed by action. Over time, this practice cultivates environments where honesty and reliability are the norm. In relationships, expecting proof can prevent emotional harm caused by broken promises. If a loved one says they will change a habit or support you, asking for evidence of effort helps you avoid endless cycles of hope followed by disappointment. This doesn't mean mistrust, but rather a balanced approach that values actions over words. This principle applies to your personal goals as well. Setting standards for yourself means you require proof of progress, not just intentions. Instead of vague plans, focus on measurable steps and results. Tracking achievements keeps you honest and motivated, steering you away from wishful thinking toward concrete growth. Business and professional settings especially demand proof over promises. When dealing with contracts, partnerships or purchases, insisting on documented proof protects you from scams and poor decisions. Data, testimonials, certifications and trial results become your safeguards against empty claims. The discipline to expect proof sharpens your judgment. You learn to recognize when something is too good to be true, or when promises are designed to manipulate. This skill is invaluable in a media-saturated age, where misinformation and marketing hype are rampant. Being proof-oriented makes you less susceptible to hype and more grounded in facts. One of the challenges in this approach is balancing skepticism with openness. It's not about doubting everyone automatically, but about requiring evidence before fully committing trust or resources. This distinction preserves a healthy mindset that is cautious but fair. Raising your standards in this way leads to stronger boundaries. You stop tolerating vague explanations or empty words. Instead, you ask for what you deserve: clarity, honesty, and proof. This protects your emotional and mental energy by reducing unnecessary worry over unfulfilled promises. Cultivating this habit also builds your confidence. When you operate on proof, you base decisions on facts, which provides solid ground. You become less reactive to disappointment because your expectations are realistic and anchored in evidence. This steadiness supports better decision-making and emotional resilience. This mindset shift requires patience and persistence. Some people will resist providing proof because it requires effort or exposes weaknesses. Others may try to evade your requests or offer excuses. Staying firm without aggression or cynicism sends a clear message: your standards are non-negotiable. You can start by questioning promises gently. For example, if someone promises to help, ask how and when they plan to do it. If a product claims certain benefits, seek reviews, demonstrations, or data. When setting goals, define clear milestones that prove progress. These small steps reinforce your commitment to proof over promises. Over time, expecting proof influences how others perceive you. You become known as someone reliable, thoughtful, and serious about quality. This reputation encourages better treatment and more meaningful connections. People bring their best when they know you value accountability. This approach can transform not only external interactions but your internal dialogue. Instead of promising yourself change, commit to proving it through action. Replace vague hopes with daily habits that show progress. Celebrate evidence of growth rather than just intentions. This clarity fosters real transformation. It's important to recognize proof comes in many forms. Sometimes it's data or documents. Other times, it's consistent behavior, testimonials, or completed tasks. Learning to identify valid proof in context sharpens your discernment. You develop a nuanced understanding of what truly counts as evidence. By holding firm to proof, you protect yourself from manipulation. Those who rely solely on promises often do so because they lack substance. Demanding evidence exposes this emptiness and encourages honesty. This protects your interests and cultivates a healthier environment around you. The power of expecting proof reaches beyond individual interactions. It builds a culture of integrity and responsibility. When enough people raise their standards, societies become more transparent and accountable. This ripple effect elevates collective trust and cooperation. Expecting proof also enhances your peace of mind. When your expectations are based on reality, you reduce anxiety caused by uncertainty. You develop clearer judgments about whom and what to trust. This clarity leads to better choices and more fulfilling relationships. In practice, this means approaching promises with a thoughtful mindset rather than blind faith. Ask for timelines, evidence of preparation, or past examples of success. Encourage openness by expressing that proof helps build stronger, more honest connections. This invitation often leads to improved communication. This mindset shift requires humility too. Sometimes you may realize that even your own promises need proof. Holding yourself accountable by demonstrating what you say builds your integrity. It's a commitment to living authentically and with honor. Ultimately, raising your standards by expecting proof empowers you. It's a way to protect your time, energy, and trust from being wasted. It encourages growth in yourself and those around you. It promotes a life built on substance rather than empty words. When you make proof the currency of your standards, you invite real progress and genuine relationships. You create a foundation of trust that is hard to shake. This foundation supports success, well-being, and deeper satisfaction in all areas of life. Chapter 15. Live with intention by choosing your thoughts daily. Every day, the mind offers a vast array of thoughts, some uplifting, some destructive, and many neutral. Living with intention means actively selecting which thoughts to nurture and which to dismiss. This conscious choice shapes your mindset, mood, and ultimately the quality of your life. It requires discipline and awareness, but the rewards are immense: greater peace, focus, and purposeful action. Thoughts are not random events. They are seeds planted by your attention. When you allow negative or unproductive thoughts to dominate, they grow into limiting beliefs and patterns that hinder your growth. But when you intentionally choose thoughts aligned with your values and goals, you create a fertile ground for confidence, motivation, and resilience. Most people drift through their mental landscape passively, reacting to whatever thought arises. This reactive state makes them vulnerable to anxiety, doubt, and distraction. The difference with intentional living is the recognition that you hold the power to decide where your mind dwells. It's like being a gardener who chooses which plants to water and which weeds to uproot. Choosing your thoughts daily requires developing a habit of mindfulness. It starts with becoming aware of your mental chatter, those repetitive loops and automatic judgments that often go unnoticed. Once you observe these patterns, you gain the ability to pause before accepting or rejecting any thought. This pause is crucial. It creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to evaluate whether a thought serves your well-being or sabotages it. Without this space, thoughts flood in unchecked, driving emotions and behaviors without conscious control. With it, you become the architect of your mental state. Intentional thought selection also means prioritizing positivity without denying reality. It's not about forcing false optimism or ignoring challenges. Instead, it's about choosing constructive perspectives that empower you to face difficulties with clarity and strength. For example, instead of dwelling on failure, you focus on lessons learned and steps forward. This process rewires your brain over time. Neuroscience shows that repeated attention to certain thoughts strengthens neural pathways, making those thoughts more automatic. By consciously choosing empowering thoughts daily, you gradually replace old, limiting patterns with new, supportive ones. This transformation leads to greater mental clarity and emotional balance. Living with intention means setting a daily mental agenda. Just as you plan tasks or meals, plan your thoughts. Begin each day by deciding what attitudes or beliefs you want to nurture. Maybe it's gratitude, patience, or determination. When you commit to these intentionally, you guide your mind toward these qualities. Alongside this proactive approach, learn to recognize and gently discard thoughts that drain your energy. Negative self-talk, fear-based scenarios, or endless worries are mental clutter. They consume your attention and reduce your capacity to engage fully with life. By rejecting these thoughts, you create room for more productive and fulfilling ones. This practice extends beyond isolated moments. It influences how you interact with others, make decisions, and respond to events. When your thoughts are intentional, your actions become purposeful. You stop reacting impulsively and start responding with awareness and control. An essential part of this journey is patience with yourself. Changing thought habits is challenging because many patterns are deeply ingrained. You will encounter resistance and occasional lapses. What matters is your commitment to return to intentionality each time, steadily reinforcing your new mental habits. Journaling can support this process by providing a space to examine your thoughts daily. Writing down what you choose to focus on helps solidify your intentions. It reveals recurring negative themes that need attention and celebrates positive shifts. This self-reflection deepens your understanding of your mental patterns. Another helpful tool is setting reminders throughout your day to check in with your mind. These pauses reinforce awareness and encourage you to realign your thoughts with your chosen intentions. Over time, this builds mental discipline and keeps your focus sharp. Intentional thought choice also impacts your physical health. Stress and negative emotions affect sleep, digestion, and immune function. By cultivating positive and focused thoughts, you reduce stress responses and promote overall well-being. Your mind and body thrive when your mental environment is supportive. This way of living nurtures resilience. When challenges arise, an intentional mindset allows you to face setbacks without being overwhelmed. You draw on thoughts that foster problem-solving and hope rather than despair. This mental strength helps you navigate life's unpredictability with grace. Living with intention transforms ordinary days into meaningful experiences. You become more present and engaged, noticing opportunities for growth and connection. Your thoughts set the tone for your actions, creating a ripple effect that influences your environment positively. The practice encourages humility and openness. Sometimes the thoughts you initially choose may need revision as new information or perspectives arise. Intentionality doesn't mean rigidity. It means awareness and willingness to adapt your mental focus in service of your highest good. As you deepen this habit, you cultivate a sense of personal power. Recognizing that you control your thoughts dissolves feelings of helplessness. You realize that no matter external circumstances, your inner world remains yours to shape. This freedom is the foundation of true peace and fulfillment. This approach challenges the common belief that thoughts happen to you without choice. It reveals a deeper truth that your mind is an active participant in creating your reality. By consciously choosing thoughts, you participate in crafting a life aligned with your purpose and values. In practical terms, this might look like starting each morning with affirmations aligned with your goals, or redirecting worry into problem solving when anxiety creeps in. It could mean reminding yourself to appreciate small joys or to release grudges that cloud your thinking. Each intentional choice shifts your experience. Building this skill also improves your relationships. When you manage your thoughts, you respond more calmly and clearly to others. You listen with attention instead of reacting defensively. This thoughtful engagement fosters deeper understanding and connection. Living with intention through thought choice is a lifelong practice. It evolves as you grow and face new challenges. The key is consistency, returning each day to the deliberate act of selecting thoughts that serve your highest good. Ultimately, this habit empowers you to lead a life of purpose and peace. Your mind becomes a tool for creation rather than a source of chaos. Through conscious thought choice, you cultivate clarity, strength, and joy, no matter what life brings.